All right, got the chats. Do. Now I wait for the others. Hello. Oh, hold on. Is my headset off? Oh, my headset's off. Okay, now I should be able to hear you. There we go. Yep, I can hear you now. Good. Alrighty, ready. Another Jubilee classic, true. Yep, I pinged on live notifications in the Discord. And then I also promoted it in Deconstruction Junction. I created an event in Aurora Debates, which will pop up in 3 minutes. So just wait a couple minutes, wait for people to get cozy, just come in, hang out. Hello, Demon. How's it going? What Demon? I need to get rid of that thing. Boop. So yeah, we are just going to be waiting a couple minutes before we do start. We were reacting to it a bit yesterday, and as you can see, we've only gotten like 11 minutes in. The next guy that comes up, this guy right here, I remember liking when I watched this the first time. I don't know if he did like the best job, but I think he did a good job, and I don't know, he just seemed nice. I don't know. Good old Greg is his name. See, and I think I got everything set up. So just waiting. Got a minute to go. Expo. You need new markers. Oh, yeah, I got. I gotcha. Let's see. I got my flow rings. Flow rings. Yeah. Yeah, they are pretty sick. Very satisfying. I found them again recently when I was going through a bunch of stuff. I was like, more or less. If you like watch some of the other streams, I have like this heart necklace from Valentine's Day that I just keep kind of doing this. Yeah, it can. I mean, like when Ian does their debates, you know, they always have like 1 or 2 pens going. All right, so it is now 1 o'clock. The event is live on Aurora Debates. I'll just send a message in there without pinging everyone because I don't want to be that rude. Oh, is it one of those fake things? Yeah, of course. Yeah. I don't I don't get many car warranty things. I get like people asking if I'm willing to sell my property. It's like, this isn't even my property and I have no other property. I don't know anyone that's selling property. So, yeah. Yeah, I've actually been getting physical mail for my car, but the funny thing is they have the wrong year on it. My car's a 2022, and they do 2020 on their stuff. But anyway, it is 1:02 now, so I guess we can start watching the video until we get a guest in here. So yeah, if anyone disagrees with God being evil and would like to discuss it with us, feel free to hit the link in the title, and that'll take you to our Discord, and we'll pull you up from there. It'll put you into a waiting room, basically, into the lobby, into the dungeon. So, yeah, gonna continue on where we left off last time. Aha! And I'm actually gonna change my audio to hear it in my headset. There we go.
Hi, nice to meet you.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
What's your name?
I'm Greg, nice to meet you.
Greg.
Okay, so I feel like you're getting at this idea of polysemy, where we have multiple related...
Oh, I think one thing I did like about Greg, he's like, he's emotive, like, almost like a cartoon character, like an animated character, which I find, I guess, kind of charming.
Meanings for a word, right? Like, for example, a famous painting can be emotionally moving in that it changes my emotional state. And when I was on the highway coming here to the studio, I was physically moving. I was changing my position. If I said, I believe the Mona Lisa is very moving, and you said, you don't really understand what you're saying, it's nailed to the wall, I would say that you're the one who doesn't understand what I'm saying, not the other way around. And the way that relates to this is there are many concepts of God, and I'll admit, I find a lot of what you say about that interesting. I'm familiar with it. The idea of this kind of Jungian hierarchical thing, or as a metaphor, or a symbol, or the kind of, atheist, materialist, literalist idea of a agentic, omnipotent, omniscient being that intervenes in reality, right? So when I'm saying that I reject the concept of God, I'm aware of these other definitions of God, but I think that when we use words, we tend to only imply one meaning at a time. So the same way that I would say the Mona Lisa is moving emotionally, but I would not say it's moving physically. I would say I reject the concept of God in this very literal way. But
what literal way?
The way that God is this omniscient, omnipotent, agentic, supernatural being that sent his son down and has, caused miracles and all these things like that. The idea of God is
Do you think that there's an underlying unity of things?
Could you explain that question?
Well, scientists, for example, believe that science unifies in a comprehensive theory. Do you, yes, no, or that there are multiple competing truths? Those are the options. Either things unify or there are multiple competing.
I guess he's talking about whether or not we have a theory of everything yet, in which we don't. Do you think that's what Peterson's referencing?
Was that a false equivalence?
I mean, it could have been. Like, yeah, that's actually
either unifying or there's multiple.
Let's see.
The idea of God is
Do you think that there's an underlying unity of things?
Could you explain that question?
Well, scientists, for example, believe that science unifies in a comprehensive theory.
Okay, yeah, he's mentioning the theory of everything. Which we do not have yet. Which I'm assuming he knows that, obviously. I mean, it could just be Peterson being Peterson, kind of avoiding the conversation to make it fit his narrative.
Yeah.
So.
Do you yes, no, or that there are multiple competing truths? Those are the
multiple competing truths. I mean, you can. It's not that like general relativity and quantum theory necessarily go against each other. It's just we're not sure how we can connect them yet. There are kind of some things in the macro and in the quantum that some of the concepts kind of clash with each other, but we're just not sure how they fit together, really. And that's what scientists are continuously looking for. If we have the theory of everything that maybe one day we'll have, because it's a huge ask, then theoretically we could just explain the universe and we wouldn't need a god. Kind of.
options. Either things unify or there are multiple competing truths.
I know that, for example, like in physics, people are looking for like a theory of everything.
And why do you think they're doing that?
It's interesting, it's helpful.
But they also believe that there's an underlying unity to things.
In a sense,
Yeah,
like
just
you
haven't
mean like
discovered
the
it yet,
material
so I
world
don't
and
know
time
what's
and
an argument.
space are probably governed by universal laws and principles?
Partly that, yes, yes,
Partly
but that the same thing might extend to a broader domain that would include imagination and value.
Could you help me connect
Dude,
that to the prompt?
Yeah, it's vague.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm trying to
exactly.
define God, the God
Yeah.
that I don't think atheists do a very good job of defining. Here's another question.
I don't think atheists necessarily do a good job of defining what Jordan Peterson thinks is God. But the problem is, no one really knows what Jordan Peterson's vision of God is. So he's making a claim based on his ideal of what God is and placing it upon all like Abrahamic religion. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, he hasn't. I don't know what his descriptor of God is yet. I mean, maybe
Exactly.
he said it, but it's so vague where it's just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's just frustrating because Jordan Peterson is so vague about what he believes, or he is very esoteric, that it's hard to have these discussions with him. As people have said, it's like metaphorically trying to grab an eel with butter on your hands, is what like multiple people in the comments said.
For you. What do you think guides you in your determination of whether or not what you're saying to me is true?
Observable.
Can we go back? Can we stay on what we were talking about?
We are.
Okay.
You're just uncomfortable with the question.
No, I feel like you're just kind of throwing different spaghetti at the wall.
I'm not.
Okay.
I asked
All
you a
right.
very specific question. What is it
Was it a very specific question?
that you think
A
guides you
specific
when you're
question
talking
that
to
is
me
unrelated.
to
Yeah.
help you determine whether what you say is true?
Logic, memory, reasoning, sensory information.
Being able to observe reality.
I swear to God,
Trust
if he is doing the presupposition route,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Oh,
fucking lose it.
he's definitely going to do it.
How do you distinguish that from being governed by something that's false?
An interesting question.
How do you know the difference
he doing
when you speak
Catholicism?
between what's true?
Doing what?
Is he trying to be like, how do you know we're not basically a brain in the vat?
He might be doing that. I think he does kind of go into some of that. I don't know if it's in this discussion or later.
But dude, he's not staying on prompt, and then
No,
he's
he's not.
like, I'm staying on prompt.
Yeah, I know. It's like the actual interlocutor or the interlocutors are just like, all right, we are going to address your claim, and then he doesn't address their addressment of the claim. It's kind of funny.
True and what's false. So you can
Exactly.
imagine
Infer, right? I can infer. I can.
from what principles?
From what principles?
So, and
Science?
what are you getting at?
I'm getting at the fact that your conscience guides you. Is that reasonable?
Conscious is defined by my empathy and my reason are my foundational.
Define it any way you want.
Okay, so that's how I'm defining my conscience. Is my my kind of
Wait,
my conscience
he's saying,
is my sense
is it reasonable to be reasonable?
Basically.
Wait, what?
No. Again, it's just.
Yeah. How can you
Peterson
say? How can you even say? Oh, how can it be reasonable?
When you're using reason to find out whether it's reasonable?
I mean, I mean, what Jordan Peterson does a lot of the time, and he does go into it a fair amount in this, is how he believes atheism is also just another religion, basically. Well, he talked about it with someone earlier, but I think, and this is a thing that a lot of theists do, is they equate observable science with faith. Give me a sec. So the difference between like atheists or people that believe in science and people that believe in God, not that they're mutually exclusive, is simply that science is based off observable means, just observable everything. Why are you making me drink more water?
Hey, because I'm drinking coffee and water, bitch.
Oh, same actually.
Hell yeah, dog.
Also,
Actually, I need to warm up my coffee real quick. It'll take literally 25 seconds.
Yep.
All right.
You're good. Hello to all of you watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Follow me on Twitch. That's probably where I get most of my viewers at the moment. One day I might do TikTok, but their regulations are such a pain in the ass to deal with. So, yeah. If you're enjoying what we've done so far, we got plenty more to go. We've only been reacting to this for like 12 minutes. There's going to be a lot of pauses because Jordan Peterson says a lot of ridiculous things. So, yeah, just stick around. Tune in. Have your own water. Have your own coffee. Make sure to quench yourself. Moisturize. And we will continue on in just a little bit once Coffee gets back with his coffee. Any of the viewers fans of coffee? The drink? Or the co-host down there? Let's see. We got people watching? Hey. Yeah, I wonder if these midday streams aren't going to be quite as popular, but hey, might have video, we got footage, might have people come by to debate against us. I'm wondering, is there anywhere else I would actually be able to post this? I could message someone. Boop. See, do I have anyone else I could just send this to? I mean, technically, sure, but
Alrighty, I am returned with more caffeine.
Yep. Did you reheat it in the microwave?
Yeah, like a heathen.
How dare you? I mean, I did the same with my coffee because I got a medium this time, and I'm a pretty slow sipper.
Yeah.
So
actually, I have this coffee mug that it keeps it. It's like a electronic one, and it heats it up and keeps it hot.
Those are cool. I do like.
They're
those.
expensive though. They're like $100.
Wait, then why aren't you
my mom
using
doesn't even use
They're
it.
called Embers, right, or something? Ember mug.
Yeah. Ember.
Ember in November.
Yeah, well, either way.
Of
right
and wrong. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
Where does that come from?
I would say that comes from an
Like, I swear to God, Greg would like blend in like a cartoon or something. I don't know why, and not in a bad way. Just seems like he's like a really good. He would like be in a Pixar movie.
Dude, the amount of pivoting Jordan Peterson's doing. He went from atheists don't understand what they're rejecting to moral justification.
Yep.
Like, what the fudge muffins?
Evolved capacity to empathize and a recognition of the benefits of engaging with and nurturing that capacity. And then that empathy is constrained and guided by reason, right? Like, for example, I am driving down the highway. There's a kitten in the road. I'm going to empathetically feel, oh my God, I want to save the kitten. But then reasonably, like, I'm going to get hit by a car, right? So that's sort of the process through which I make ethical decisions.
Okay,
Is
how do you-
really constrained by reason.
Do you think that people can differ in their response to something empathically?
Yeah.
Is there a mediating principle that can tell you one person who's empathic and another person who's empathic that disagree, who's correct?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that's where we'd have to, talk it out, right? We do that in real life all the time when we have, whether that's a discussion with a friend about the right thing to do in a situation, whether that's a policy discussion about law, right? That's where we can converse with each other, think about things, explain our perspectives, and then kind of reach a conclusion, right? That I think that we do that all the time.
So Elijah, the prophet Elijah, defined God in the Old Testament as the voice of conscience within.
Okay.
That's a definition.
So you're saying by that definition of God, I see this kind of goes back to where I'm saying initially.
I'm not defining it. Elijah defined
so
it.
as Elijah.
Bro, what the
I'm not defining it. Well, then why are you using it? Basically. It's like, why would you use it if you're not going to actually, like, define it yourself? I mean, like, I get these saying is like, oh, well, this guy defined it as such, and that relates to you. And that relates to you, Mr. Peterson. We would like to understand more about your actual position on things, why you understand the world the way you do. Are you actually Christian? Are you actually an atheist this entire time, but you just like to have this conversation?
Could you
No.
rewind it a little bit to where he said he was talking about Elijah?
Then kind of reach a conclusion, right? That I think that we do that all the time.
So Elijah, the prophet Elijah, defined God in the Old Testament as the voice of conscience within.
Okay.
That's a definition.
Why bring it? What's
You're
up?
saying by that definition of
slept well.
God. I see. This kind of goes back to where I'm saying initially.
I'm not defining it. Elijah
Okay,
defined
so
it.
as Elijah defines
It's
God.
defined that way in Jonah, too.
Okay, so as
Cardinal Newman also
got
defined it that
as,
way.
as I'm sure you know many people who've defined it that
Yeah,
way.
Mr. Peterson. shut the fuck
And it's
up.
impressive. You're a very knowledgeable person.
I'm not trying to be impressive.
Oh my god.
Yes, you definitely are, motherfucker.
He is the least humble actor ever.
Yeah. How's it going, Light? I hope you're having a good day.
I'm just pointing out to you
Got
how
it.
God is defined.
Oh, what?
Oh no, it's just like, why bring that up? Is it's I don't know why. Okay, so I don't know why he asked. Who's this guy's name again? Greg?
Greg.
Why did he ask him what his viewpoint is and then bring up the Bible? Like, we're talking about the whole entire prompt is about not understanding the God they're rejecting, and I don't know how his worldview relates to him rejecting God.
Yeah, it's just that, well, as
Or the certain God.
as Peterson said, so he probably follows the line where it's like, oh, different atheists reject a different God, kind of like how Christians might believe conceptually in the same God, but they might believe that God is different, in different denominations and shit like that. So he's I think Jordan Peterson, from what I've noticed, just really tries to compare atheism to like Christianity or Abrahamic religions, and it doesn't make sense just implicitly. Like, there's going to be some similarities because humans are generally kind of similar to each other and how we act and how we function. So I don't know. It's just a pointless thing, and it sounds almost like a gotcha. It's like, oh, you think just like the Christians. It's like, no, we don't. We have similar systems of thought and reason, but that's about it. We just have different thoughts and reasons about different things. However, atheism, or at least if you're going down the route of like empiricism of evidence-based knowledge, atheists typically at least have that going for them, where Christianity is strictly faith-bound. You can't be a Christian without having some degree of faith in the supernatural, in the historicity of supernatural events and stuff like that. And then obviously a lot of Christians kind of like pick and choose what they want to believe, whereas in as an evidence-based science, you're just like, oh, well, this is just what this is how this thing works, or at least how we've currently observe it to work. This is our best evidence for this thus far, whereas Christianity, again, I've looked into some of the so-called evidence, like saints, canonization of saints, a couple miracles and stuff like that, and it's really not put under enough scrutiny, basically. Anyway, that was my rant.
Go for it. No, this is
all right.
rants
So
are
to
why
respond
we're
to
here.
that, I do think there are lots of interesting ways to define God. And that goes back to my kind of opening
Then how do we
statement.
specify what we're arguing about?
Then why are you making this claim, Dr. Peterson? If you know it's going to be a more or less pointless discussion, why are you having it? I mean, okay,
You know what's
he
interesting
might
is,
just be
like-
trying to sound smart, I guess, but like,
Oh, absolutely. And then say, oh, I'm not trying to sound
I'm not trying to
smart.
sound smart.
But the whole entire thing is just like, if that's I don't know, it feels like he's kind of like implying that we can't reject God
Yeah.
at all. And then like we can like describe something that's like, I'm trying to figure, I mean, it's just like we reject the specific properties of God.
Yeah.
And so like if we give specific properties of something we don't know, does that mean you can't reject it?
Yeah.
Like it's just weird.
It's like if you really want to, you just be like, oh, well, God's unknowable, so you can't outright reject something that is unknowable. And it's like, well, then what's the point of this conversation, basically?
Okay. Yeah, then
yeah.
yeah. Okay. Then we can't reject quantum theory. We don't know it to its full capacity.
Exactly, right. We can't reject science. You don't understand it to its full capacity. Yeah, so it's like, what's the point at that?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, there is a point in discussing these things. I just think Peterson's argument makes it pointless to have the discussion.
We use context clues, or again, it goes back to my example of the
I'm
Mona Lisa.
defining God as conscience.
Okay, so that's interesting, but then you're kind of expanding the meaning of
No,
God.
I'm not. That's how it's defined in the Old Testament,
Okay,
in
so-
Elijah and in Jonah.
Sure. So whoever, so
It's
some.
not whoever.
Okay.
Elijah is one of the
Okay,
major
all right,
Old Testament
all right.
prophets.
And I don't give a fuck about Elijah. It's like, why should I
Yeah, dude.
care? I'm here to talk with you.
Oh, actually,
That's-
you know
that's
what's
what they should
funny?
say. What's up?
Elijah is the alias I used in the experiment on the dating apps.
Oh, really?
Yes, I did Elias, but it's a play on Elijah.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
Nice,
I just wanted to say that.
That's
All
right.
right.
He's equal in stature to Moses.
Okay.
Right. So it's not arbitrary.
All right.
Ian.
So that is interesting, but it's not relevant to the context with which I am using the term God.
It's directly relevant. Atheists reject God, but they don't
Right, but
understand
you-
what they're rejecting.
you're
You
being-
accept conscience as a guide, and conscience is one of the defining characteristics of God in the Old
I mean, consciousness, you can debate whether or not consciousness actually exists, really.
No, conscience.
Oh, conscience. Oh, yeah. Fair
Yeah, like
Moral.
oh, you.
Morality.
Yeah,
system,
yeah. It's a moral thing.
Well,
Old Testament.
I think you're being intellectually disingenuous.
In what way?
yeah,
True.
call him
Because,
out.
I
again,
asked you if you believe that conscience guided
you just
you.
asked me a question and then you stopped me from answering it. in this setting, you understand the way I am using the term God and belief.
Not
and
in the least. I don't understand how you're using it in the least. That's why I'm trying to define it.
Then
My
ask,
definition of God
motherfucker.
as conscience is a lot more precise and oriented than your definition of the God that you hypothetically disbelieve in.
It's irrelevant to the fault lines of this debate.
How is it irrelevant?
Because in common parlance, when we're talking about atheists, God, belief, not belief,
I
we're
don't
not
care
talking
about common parlance. I'm trying to get to something fundamental.
I think your point is irrelevant to the way that people tend to use these words. Your point that there are these polysemous
I didn't make
ideas
that
of God.
point. You did.
I
made a specific point that God was associated with conscience.
I just feel like you kind of retreat into this semantic fog.
I'm not retreating at all.
That a lot of people like that line. Retreat into the semantic fog.
Yeah, he loves semantics.
Oh yeah.
Because it makes him look smart and it looks like he won, but it's like, just all smoke and mirrors.
Yep.
Sir, you are retreating.
All right. Well, it was very nice to meet you.
Nice
I appreciate
to meet
the
you too.
conversation.
Yeah. It's very brave of you to do this.
Thank you.
It's very honestly, bro, it's very brave of you to get fucking slammed by 25 atheists.
Morality and purpose cannot be found within science. I would say, I mean, so I'm an existentialist, and I'm also like I'm not gonna. Technically I'm a moral subjectivist, but like as I've said, like many people, it's like it doesn't matter if morality is ultimately subjective or relative, because we live in societies and we still follow like quote unquote moral objectivity within those cultures and society. So I think you can base your morality off of science, hence more or less my stance on abortion. Let's see. And purpose, I'm an existentialist. I think we just create our own purpose. So, now, and I would ultimately believe that even like Christians, they're creating their own purpose by, having faith in a God and everything, and which, I don't discount. Like, do it if it makes you feel good. You're not hurting anyone else. All great, So.
Yeah, no. Also, if you accept that, I mean, and depending on who you ask as a Christian, they can be moral relativists.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, so basically, like, if you reject the slavery verse, all the genocide and shit, like, oh, that was a different time, or it's only for specific people, then it's not objective.
Yeah. But that would also mean then God changes, and God is supposed to be unchanging. So.
Yeah.
Be found within science.
What is up, Mr. Canada?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
What's
How are
your
you?
name?
Brian. I think it's interesting that you say that morality and purpose can't be found in science.
Is Jordan Peterson Canadian?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Canadian as fuck.
He's Canadian as fuck.
It's actually
within science.
Sure. Purpose, I actually grant you, because purpose is subjective, right? Unless you want to boil it down to the purpose of life is just to procreate, right? Sure, whatever. Morality is actually something that we do see. We actually have examples of Neanderthals and older individuals found in the tribe, missing an arm, missing teeth, still alive somehow in his 40s, 50s, right? Typically, you're a Neanderthal, you can't eat, you can't hunt, you die, right? But we know that members of his tribe were taking care of him, right? So we know that at some level, early in our evolutionary history, we actually developed altruism. We have examples of chimpanzees who actually have a basic understanding of fairness, right? If you give a chimpanzee 2 grapes, right, and his buddy gets 3, right? He actually freaks out, right? But you give both chimps 3 grapes and they're good. We have examples of parrots.
Except for the greedy chimps.
Except for the greedy chimps.
They want 4 grapes.
They want 4 grapes. Those do exist, right?
That's actually funny.
But we have similar examples.
It's not like Jordan Peterson can't have a little fun, but like
he's just a little bitch. What?
He's also just a little bitch. Yeah. Like
so
I would be frustrated talking with him, but at the same time I think it would still be interesting to this is gonna sound kind of mean, but like experiment with him, just like It's like, how do you function? What?
NSFW, dude.
Shut the fuck up.
You bring me into this. But when it depends on what he means found within science.
Yeah.
I don't think science defines morality, but you can get to morality and like you can evaluate moral claims via science.
Yep. Exactly.
Science
does not inherently grant morality a purpose. Purpose, I would say, actually grants science. We have a purpose, and we create a purpose of understanding the universe, therefore science.
Yeah, so like I feel like we can get to objective morality via a subjective goal.
Yeah.
So if our goal is to reduce suffering, then there is an objective way to go about that.
Yeah.
Where we do animal tests, right?
So morality is intrinsic.
I think.
So it precedes science.
I think that actually a better way to define it would be that social animals, which we are, right, require some level of morality or...
Into what? I'm not disagreeing.
Sure.
Why do they require that?
Because it's the only way that social groups can actually survive, right?
That's my point with regards to science. Thank you very much.
Is that?
Precisely the point that you just made, that science has to exist within a moral framework that isn't in itself scientific.
How's that not scientific?
Well, because it's not derived from the scientific process, as you just indicated.
It doesn't need to derive from the scientific process. It's the fact that we are social animals, and we need that to exist as a group.
He's changing it.
Right?
He's changing it.
Pointed to the morality of Neanderthals, to the morality of chimpanzees.
He's kind of changing the claim a little bit. He's like moving the goalposts because the prompt is morality and purpose cannot be found within science. Like if it means like solely derived from science, I might agree with that.
Yeah.
But you can use science to evaluate moral claims, and so it technically is within science, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
I don't know. I feel like
it's obviously influenced by. Maybe honestly, Peterson's claim here is almost I don't know what I would call it. It's like, yeah, technically true, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't understand why I don't know.
No.
It's just a weird claim.
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, if I was in that room, which God forbid I ever am, or maybe it would be a good thing. I don't know. It would be, I mean, I would probably just straight up say is like, well, I technically agree, but for different reasons, probably. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I just probably wouldn't go up here.
They didn't derive that from science.
They don't need to. That's not how that works.
That's my point.
Science is removed from...
Science doesn't explain morality.
It doesn't explain how social animals would need to be
that's a complicated question.
But we see it, though.
Yeah, but explaining the evolution of morality and explaining morality itself aren't the same thing.
Okay, so you're asking why does this happen?
Yes, that's more accurate.
Because we're social animals and we need to be...
Yeah, but there's more to it than that.
Is there?
Sure. For example, so we're moral animals that have a sense of the future.
Sure.
Okay, that makes us unique. And that structures our morality.
No, actually, there are other animals that can predict the future. Or not predict
really.
the future. No, tigers. Actually, there was a tiger at the SF Zoo that killed somebody. And so
hunting
actually...
animals...
No. Kids threw shit at the tiger. The tiger actually plotted its escape. And it found the kids.
I'm not saying that animals can't think.
Okay.
No, but they can perceive the future. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
voted out by the majority.
Thank you, man.
Good
well,
man.
yeah, I'm sure. I mean, obviously, animals have like forethought. I mean,
yeah, it's Pavlovian.
Yeah, it's like, you know, a cat
if
measures.
They hear a bell,
a cat measures whether or not it can make a certain jump or something. Like, I don't. Maybe I don't know. This is all kind of...
He's just really wiggly with the prompts. He changes just a smidge where he has like a rebuttal. And he doesn't really address what the other... Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of this prompt in this discussion, to be honest, but whatever.
Peterson. How you doing?
How you doing, man?
My name's Luke. Nice to meet
Good
you.
to see you, Luke.
So your claim that morality and purpose can only be found in science is a little shaky because I think that your claim is really being framed to be morality and purpose can only be found in religion. Is that how you're kind of framing it?
I would say that the domain of religion is the domain of morality and purpose. Yes, exactly. And also that science is actually structured, at least in part technically, to eliminate such considerations from its purview a priori.
Okay.
Right? That's why we define science as value-free. But that has to be wrong because scientists have to prioritize their attention towards something before.
That's prioritizing for the social group. That's not scientific method. Those are two separate things. Science in and of itself is morally science isn't moral, basically. Research,
well, also,
like, obviously
sorry, go ahead.
it can go into subjects that have moral bearing, but research in and of itself, the scientific method, is amoral. It is just a process. It is a tool.
I was also thinking that how do we know which religion has the moral framework that we need? And
Well-
then you would need to assess using your own intuitions and everything like that in order to make the claim that this is the right religion.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. It's silly.
Before they can even
He's a little
engage
silly.
in
He's a
observation.
silly little boy.
And
I
that
think
act
this
of
prompt doesn't do
prioritization
anything.
of attention
Well,
is
he's
a value
conflating
predicated act.
some stuff.
And so I can continue. There's all sorts of things we have to assume about science before it can take place.
Okay, so what I'm specifically pointing out here is about religion in particular, since you yourself are a Christian, right?
People debate about that, and I generally don't discuss it
People
publicly.
debate about
I
that?
understand.
Hold on.
What
Yeah,
I'm
let me-
actually pointing out here is
About science before it can take place.
okay, so what I'm specifically pointing out here is about religion in particular, since you yourself are a Christian, right?
People debate about that, and I
Oh, I
generally
think
don't
I
discuss
understand
it
what he means.
publicly.
Okay, I understand that. And
What?
I think I understand what he means. He describes himself as a Christian, but the way he describes himself as a Christian, people may disagree with.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, he does, I think, pretty regularly admit that, like, his view on all of it does not align with a good amount of Christians. So...
And me, myself, I am a former young earth creationist fundamentalist.
Oh, yeah.
So I have experience in this. I used to run a TikTok channel directed about apologetics about the Bible, specifically in this type of facet with morality, evolution and such, and going back and forth with that. So in the Bible, it talks a lot about slavery, right?
Yes.
Yes. So in that, it teaches you how to take care of a slave. Rather than saying slavery is wrong, I think
No,
it
it
should
says
say
that in the story of Moses.
It says slavery is incorrect. It says
Well,
it's immoral.
that's why Moses leads his people away from slavery.
But why does the Bible predicate?
He doesn't like the fact that it's his people into slavery.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, all right, I don't like when my people are enslaved, but actually, that's incorrect. That's actually incorrect. Hold up. No, there is a specific way of treating slaves that are Israelites. Hold up, I'm gonna bring up the verse.
All right, go for it. Fleeg, what's up? How are you doing, friend?
Yes, it's my brother from Germany.
Oh, it's Fliegen is von
Fliegen?
Deutschland.
Yeah, no,
Fliegen.
he's one of the coolest dudes I've ever met on the interwebs.
Ah, wirklich.
Yes, he is a very cool individual. Deutschland.
That's what. Deutschland.
Yeah, we're just reacting to that. Nah, it's not too much, bro. You're a real one, man.
What is WSG?
Give me one
again?
second. I'm looking up the verse.
And, you know what? Thank you, bot, for at least message it. How the fuck do I like ban? Leviticus 25:44 is what they say.
Yeah, no, we're just chilling. We're waiting for some debates. Anybody coming up to discuss why we think God's evil or why they think God's good?
Can I not just click on their name and ban them? What's going on? Should be able to. Oh, drag to moderate. There we go.
Ba 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 ba. But yeah, Leviticus 25:44 through 46. As for your male and female slaves whom you may have, you may buy male and female slaves from among the nations around you.
Mm-hmm.
You may also buy from among the strangers who, I don't know how to sojourn? I forget how to say that name.
Yeah.
Sojourn. With you and their clans that are with you who have been born in your land, and they may be your property.
Hello,
so,
Jesus died for you. I'm gonna assume we know what your opinions might be on our prompt.
777, bro. Let's go.
777. So lucky. Anyway, continue, Coffee. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and then Exodus 21 through 21 2 through 6. When you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve 6 years, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. Then blah, 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 blah. But if the slave plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. Then his master shall bring him to God. And there's a little bit in between, and he shall be his slave forever.
Wait,
so there is a difference.
Do the masters believe all slaves are godless heathens or something?
Always.
Okay, fair enough.
You can't pay your bills? Fuck you.
Demons. All right, we're gonna continue on. Jesus died for you. If you want to have a discussion on the Abrahamic deity, whether or not he is evil, feel free to go to the link in the title, and that'll put you in our Discord, and then I can drag you up. If you're willing to have the discussion, obviously not going to force you.
Yeah, if you just want to comment,
more context.
Gonna need some more context. By context, do you mean like my specific claim? Like if you're talking about my specific claim, this is basically my claim. If a being is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent, it would neither cause nor allow gratuitous suffering. So basically, gratuitous suffering is like the main part of it. Yeah, like I feel like a morally perfect being would not let unnecessary suffering occur.
I actually really liked one of Alex O'Connor's takes on it, which is other animals besides humans. Why do they go through great tragic suffering all the time, basically?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So
why couldn't he create like I don't know. Like I guess like we're allowed to eat animals, but why do you can't have on Discord
here? I can't on Discord. Okay.
Yeah, we can work with that.
We'll respond to it when we can, but we're probably gonna mostly prioritize the video that we're watching right now. But yeah, feel free to ask questions, and we'll respond accordingly when we can, etc. All right.
And tell people exactly how to take care of a slave. Isn't that immoral? Wouldn't you say that culturally we've evolved as a species, as he said earlier about empathy?
Yeah, I would say that the reason we evolved, so to speak, away from slavery was because the West was founded on Judeo-Christian morality and the presumption that every person was made in the image of God. And so slavery itself became immoral, and that was established by Protestant Christians in the UK, who then convinced the UK government for 200 years to go to war on slavery.
And wouldn't you say that this is about the cultural evolution of humans in general, rather than just Christianity?
No, I think it's the flowering of the ideas that were embedded in the biblical texts across long spans of time.
I feel like this is just humans editing based on the cultural evolution of morality.
What do you mean by just?
Just?
Yeah, just humans.
Well, humans.
Editing.
Well, based on culture and history, right? We get better.
Well, they did do it based on culture and history, but culture and history have their foundations too. So.
Well, yeah, but we're talking about slavery. So many people bolstered it based on the Bible. based on the Bible. They looked at it and they justified it in the United States and the Deep South. They justified slavery.
Yeah, but
based
the main
on the
thrust,
Bible.
the main thrust of Protestant thought in particular was stringently against slavery, and it was about the only.
Was Protestantism strictly against slavery? I feel like it.
I mean, honestly, I don't think it matters, dude. We're talking about God, whose objective morality is kind of the discussion here, and so I don't think it matters what Christians think. It matters what the text is saying.
Yeah, let's see.
And
no,
like,
Protestants did not always oppose slavery. Quakers took some early stances against it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the Christians in the South were Protestant. So maybe specific sects, such as Quakers, but
movement in the history of the human race that had an anti-slavery direction.
Which was driven by humans and their understanding
that's one
of
way
morality.
Of looking at it. Well, it depends.
It's the same with women's suffrage. I mean, women's the patriarchy.
What do you mean it was driven by humans? Humans drove slavery too.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So there's no argument there. If slavery and anti-slavery were both driven by humans, what does your claim that they were driven by humans have to do with it?
Evolving morality based on the culture that within the society that they live in.
Okay, fine.
So with women's suffrage as well is a very similar topic within the society that they live in.
Okay, fine.
So with women's suffrage as well is a very similar topic in the Bible.
Is he saying he thinks it did happen or didn't happen? I can't tell.
That they were driven by humans have to do with it.
Evolving morality based on the culture that within the society that they live in.
Okay, fine.
So with women's suffrage as well is a very similar topic in the Bible. There are denominations in Christianity such as Pentecostal movement which do bolster women to be pastors, right? Which I think that's a great thing to do, but most like to disregard women.
Where do you think the idea that human beings were sufficiently equal to all vote and not be slaves came from?
Humans.
Yeah, but so did the idea of slavery.
So did the idea of God.
Culture. Yeah, God is culture.
But what's your point? Like, you're not making an argument. You're just saying all thoughts come from humans, regardless of the thoughts.
It's not driven by a higher power. It's driven on our experiences as humans, which is what is best for all people.
Is it driven by conscience?
It could be. Which conscience is also something that has evolved over time, and I think that's something that does
weird ass definitions
with morality and empathy.
Okay, I don't understand the point that you're making.
My point is that God influenced slavery. People looked at the Bible and went, "This is moral because God says so." Just like women's suffrage,
there's lots
and just like homosexuality.
All human societies were slave owning, so you can't blame that on the Bible.
If humanity,
obviously slavery has been around for like fucking ever, but the Bible didn't stop it in and of itself, right?
Yeah, dude.
In fact, the Old Testament promoted it, and so did the New Testament. So
yeah. Well, no, I would wonder what the Christians would have viewed the slaves if Jesus came out and said plainly, "Do not own fucking slaves." I wonder how that would influence the history of slavery in the U.S.
All right. Jesus has something to say.
Okay. The reason why we suffer is because God limited himself by giving us free will, because we can't love without free will, and the world has chosen sin and has fallen away from what God had originally planned for us. And God can also use suffering to teach us great purpose. And that's why suffering exists, of free will in a fallen world.
So
could you tell me what the purpose of leukemia is in newborn infants? Like, I don't know how that relates to free will.
Also, why do we have to suffer for the sins of Adam?
I mean, it's not even just, well, that one's a good point, but like,
yeah.
It's like collective punishment. And I don't think collective punishment is very moral.
Yeah. Anyway.
And if he does have a greater purpose, how do you know that purpose is good?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
All right, and we'll wait for Jesus' response, but we will continue the video, so there's not just like a lot of downtime in between.
decided...
Oh, wait, address that first.
What,
all
about slavery?
Human societies were slavers, so you can't blame that on the Bible.
Well, you can say it bolstered it.
Well, not if you look at the broad sweep of history, because it was the Protestant Christians
based on
the
their
UK.
interpretation of the Bible.
It was the Protestant Christians...
Which evolves over time.
Let's pause there. You've been voted out by the majority.
Right.
Okay. Well, it was great talking with you,
nice
sir.
talking to you, too.
Dr. Peterson?
Good to see you, man.
Pleasure.
What's your name?
Brian. So the first thing I would like to say is I would like to engage in this discussion in a symbiotic manner. I would not like to engage where there is one clear winner and one clear loser. Emotions are activated and it ultimately comes about ego. So I'm just saying I'm really trying to understand your position, and I would just like you to really try to understand my position.
Deal.
Okay, sounds good. With that, if you're saying that morality and purpose cannot come from science, is the opposite of that true, that morality and purpose can only come from God?
That's a way of defining it, yes.
Okay.
That's right, that's good. So I would say that with regard to the first claim, say, atheists don't understand what they're rejecting, because I would say by definition, God is the unity upon which moral claims are based. That's a definition, right?
Okay, if there is a God, what is the purpose of life?
Well, in the Christian tradition, the purpose of life is to engage in voluntary, upward, self-sacrifice so that the kingdom of heaven can be established on earth.
So you're trying to make it to heaven and avoid hell?
Yes, that's a good way of thinking about it.
What is the purpose of heaven? Do you understand?
Well,
so here's the deal.
At minimum,
it's
the opposite of endless suffering. How about that?
Okay, and so should we not try to achieve infinite suffering on planet Earth? And if we can achieve infinite suffering on planet Earth without God, avoiding it, if we can do that without God, then does that defeat your claim?
Well, yeah, except that it doesn't. You circumvented my initial definition, because I said that by definition, God was the unified source of morality. And so if we engage in a moral exercise...
And when you're talking about morality, though, when you really reverse engineer it and you get it down to its root, you're a psychologist, it really seems like it just has to deal with motivation. People are saying there is a God,
It's more specific than that.
Well, so let me ask you this. So if there is a God and there is a moral code and it doesn't come at your benefit, are you going to follow it?
It depends on how you define your benefit. If
it's going to come at your expense, would you still follow it? If God came down and said, here is my moral code and you should follow it, but even if you follow it, you are still going to end up in hell, are you going to follow it?
Well, that was the question that was put to Job and to Christ. Right?
Like what?
Because they were required. Hang on, I'm answering your question. They were required to withstand
Poor Job.
trials that would break anyone and maintain their upward orientation regardless.
And they did that with the motivation of believing that this omnipotent, all-loving God would somehow turn it into a benefit. So they still did it solely for their benefit. So let's
define benefit. Like, if I did something for your sister, would that be to your benefit? Like, how are you defining your benefit? Do you mean one of your whims gratified now? Or do you mean you and everyone you love and know over some reasonable span of time? Like,
so
what do you mean by
when you're talking about whims, I think you're talking about something that's more dopamine. When you're talking about morality, you're talking about something that's more serotonin and more ultimately satisfying. So you and I agree on a lot. I mean, when it comes to talking about how men should be masculine and things of that nature, you and I are 100% in agreement. We just don't agree on the justification that God is the only thing that provides morality.
It's not a justification, it's a definition.
What's the difference then between a definition and a justification? I mean, it's ultimately psychologically the same thing.
Well, we have to define what we're talking about before we can debate.
Okay, well,
right?
so here's my position.
So I said that God, among other things...
I'm actually a non-theist. I'm not an atheist. I believe the human condition is one of uncertainty. And what that means is that I don't believe that you...
I mean, I will say, like, him asking on the definition of what benefit is, that's reasonable to me. But it is Jordan Peterson in his definitions.
can conclude there is a God with certainty, and I don't believe that you can conclude
Coffee.
that there is a God
in
without in the same position. Now, with that, I don't care. I still wake up every day, and I have motivation to be a moral person.
Define moral.
What I ought to do.
Okay, and how do you come to that conclusion?
And what I ought to do, ultimately, it comes down to what not just benefits me, but what benefits the entire planet, what benefits the entire system. I think that your entire moral perspective comes from linear thinking, and when you look at the reality of the universe, it's actually more so holistic. So when you look at how Aristotle defined God, when he said that there had to be an unmoved moved or an uncaused cause, he was defining God from a linear perspective, and you do the same with morality, and you do the same with purpose.
How does my definition of morality? How does my definition of morality hypothetically differ from yours?
Because you're saying that there's something that exists in a vacuum, that it exists in and of itself, and nothing in the universe exists in a vacuum. Nothing exists in and of itself. It's a whole systems-based morality. It's a systems-based reality.
Is there a hierarchical
and that is
structure?
what the quantum.
Is there a hierarchical structure? Are some things more important than others?
Are some things, I think some things lead to more benefits than others.
Then, by your own definition, some things are more important than others.
Yes.
Okay.
What is pause there? You've been voted out by the majority.
Parker.
How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I guess since you said morality and purpose cannot be found in science, it would just depend on like what you're referencing. If you're saying a description of your psychological preferences would be considered within science, sure. But I don't think that you have to say that it comes from science in order to be like an atheist. As an agnostic atheist, I don't know if God exists and I don't believe that a God exists. And the only ones that I would really reject would be like the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good, perfect notion of God that plenty of Christians like prescribe themselves. So I guess
how is that relevant to this claim?
You're basing a position of morality and purpose in some like notion of God that isn't the same type of notion of God that typical Christians would prescribe.
Jesus responded.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean like you're Jesus. Sorry, I meant to. I don't know if that's offensive or something, so I apologize. I don't know why newborns have terrible diseases, and I also don't believe we suffer directly from Adam's sin, but we inherit the sinful nature from Adam, and we all sin. And it says in the Bible, the punishment for sin is death. But Christ died because he loves us and doesn't want us to die and go to hell. He offers us hope and healing if we choose to follow him and ask for him to be in our lives. Okay, so when you say, I don't know why newborns have terrible diseases, you're kind of, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. If you don't know why newborns have terrible diseases, how do you know God is not doing that just for fun? And if you don't know why he's doing this, I don't know how you can claim that he's all good. Because leukemia is awful. I don't know if you have the understanding of what leukemia is. But it's horrendous, and I'm not sure what the purpose would be. Because if God is all loving, he would have to have a greater purpose for this newborn to have leukemia. I mean, there's other diseases that are horrendous. And so
it's a lot of horrible conditions.
Yeah, if God is all loving, he would either have to have a justification in order to justify the this type of suffering, and either that, and you still don't know.
Don't think he's directly giving them.
I also don't think he is directly giving them so if it's the case that he's all powerful and all knowing, he has the ability to intervene and make sure that this baby does not suffer.
Hey, Tim.
I mean, hell, why did he create cancer? He knows that there are going to be babies that suffer from diseases that he created. Often people will say, I don't know if you're one, that Jesus, oh my God, I'm sorry. that God did not create diseases. And if he is the creator of all things, then by definition, he created cancer. The reason why there is suffering is because the point of life is to make you suffer and see how you and those react around you to then send you to heaven or hell.
And we could just also not have suffering and go to heaven.
Is it possible?
So it just feels like God might be toying with us.
But not. Is it possible for you to suffer, but not to the degree of the amount of pain that leukemia causes? Is that possible? And if so, why didn't God create a world in which people can suffer, but not to the degree of leukemia and other parasitic diseases like what's that one called? Hold on, give me 1 second. I have it up here. River blindness. Onchocerciasis, blah blah blah. I don't even know. It's a tropical disease caused by a parasitic worm. And basically it causes blindness. And so I just don't understand why he would create this type of parasite. I just don't know what the justification would be. Yeah.
Let's see. You can always say, why not less suffering? Why not more pleasure? The point is, life is just the beginning. It really isn't that important how you feel in this life. I mean, if you say it's not important, then why does it determine whether or not we exist in eternal pleasure or eternal suffering?
And also, we still suffer to a great degree. He would need, if he is all loving, he would need a justification that would bring out the greater good. If he is all loving, he would need that justification. And if you don't know that justification, then you can't claim that he is all good.
See, nobody deserves heaven. We all deserve hell. Oh, that's kind of shitty. Jesus offers us a way out of hell if we chose to follow. Actually, question, what happened? And like, I know there's answers for this. What happens to the people before Jesus was a thing?
Yeah. I also have a question. Why the hell didn't God have Jesus come in way before, there's just such a big time span between, like Noah's flood. Why couldn't he bring out Jesus right after Noah's flood? I feel like that would make a lot more sense.
God was in a bad mood for like 4,000 years.
Oh yeah, he was not.
What do you mean, he is God?
What do you mean justification? So what do you think is the purpose? If God has a purpose for everything, God created everything for a specific reason, or at least I think that's what theists believe. So he would need a justification, a purpose to allow gratuitous suffering. But yeah, I don't know. Is it possible for God to give us a heartbeat without all this gratuitous suffering, without leukemia?
And also, we know what makes your heart beat. It's science. It's biology. I can't go into the specifics. I'm not like a physiology major or anything like that, but it's electrical impulses that makes your heart beat on a very basic
Yes, I've heard the story of Job. And it's awful.
Yep,
but we're talking about leukemia right now. We're talking about babies who don't have the ability to choose things, and that's unnecessary. Like, yeah, you can have a justification, and God within that Bible, in that story, he gives the justification. I mean, I don't agree with it, but he needs to explain the justification for gratuitous suffering. So,
yeah, God might be all everything, but it doesn't mean he wouldn't have justifications, right? That
yes, it would be possible for God to make Hitler himself be born in heaven and live in heaven forever with no test or trial. Does he deserve it, though? I mean, I feel like this is getting somewhat off the point. I'm trying to ask what is God's justification if he is all loving? What is his greater good within leukemia? That's my question right now.
And then as for the Hitler thing, I think that is kind of a different discussion. But if make Hitler himself born in heaven and live in heaven forever with no test trial, yeah, then all those terrible things probably wouldn't happen. I think that would be awesome. To be honest, just put everyone in heaven where apparently our souls are basically regulated to only be morally good in the kingdom of heaven, based on the principles of the Abrahamic God.
Are you saying how can a newborn infant be tested? And basically if it's the case that the test is for like the parents, then it's really, really fucked up that literally the baby is born to suffer for the parents. And so that is, in my opinion, and I hope in your opinion, fucked up.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a dark argument, but I like dark humor for better or worse. Is like, why don't we just abort all the children? It's free tickets to heaven, apparently.
Oh yeah, dude, that one's wild.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use it. The parents of the...
Sure.
I literally just said, why... I literally said that the baby is literally born to suffer for only the purpose of the parents. Why couldn't the baby suffer to an extreme less extent, still test the parents, but not to the extent of how much the infant is suffering? Why is it fucked up that the infant's suffering? I do not know how to explain it further.
Why is it fucked up that the baby will suffer and die when there is an afterlife for him? Why does it even really matter?
Why does it matter?
Well, obviously we don't believe in such an afterlife, so all we see is just unreasonable suffering, right? Or just the laws of nature causing suffering or whatever. So, I mean, we would have to have the presupposition of believing in God to think it might be okay, but then it's just justified suffering, which I don't necessarily believe in. I mean, obviously, maybe you can kill someone in self-defense or whatever, but...
Why is that even a test?
Yeah.
Well, is it possible to give these parents a test without a newborn infant having leukemia? Is it possible? Why is it necessary for this to be the test? He would need a justification why it's necessary for this specific test to occur. I just don't understand. What change do you think would happen for the parents? Like, I just don't understand. Yeah, like, what is the test? Is it like to get them closer to God or something? What about, I just don't understand what justification. That's really what I'm looking for, is a justification. And if the only justification is to test the parents, why does this specific event need to happen?
I don't get these is it possible questions. Yeah, it's always possible to make life more pleasurable for you, but you don't deserve this.
No.
Well, that's mean. I think
no,
I'm a
it's
nice
not
guy.
even being pleasurable. It's reducing suffering.
You have no right.
It's not even about pleasure.
So be grateful.
I haven't mentioned pleasure at all.
Sounds like an abusive father. I brought you into this world. You better be grateful. It's like, it wasn't my choice to come here.
Yeah, that's true. Like,
God.
I mean, you could make an argument that I would prefer not to exist if I knew that I would be literally born to test my parents and I have to suffer in order to test them. In all honesty, I would prefer not being born. I would prefer that my suffering didn't cause my parents to suffer.
Let's see. God allows suffering, such as things like leukemia, so we can grow closer to God. It just sounds like an abusive relationship. He's like, all right, I'm gonna beat your ass to see if you'll actually love me.
I mean, there's even a verse where, I mean, if he's all powerful, it is possible for him to not include leukemia into the world and still test people and bring closer to God.
So
it's possible because God is all powerful.
And Jesus, you say because he limited his power, but then that would mean he's not all powerful.
It's gratuitous suffering. It's not about just suffering. It's gratuitous suffering, unnecessary suffering. Like, let's say, for example, you burn your hand on a stove. That's suffering that can be somewhat justified. Now you're like, oh, that doesn't feel good. That hurts. I suffered for that. I won't do it again. There's a justified suffering right there.
Children need true League.
And it's not even about deserving.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's literally reality. It's the way the world, it's the way our biology functions. We suffer to help us, from a biological standpoint, survive.
Yeah. And different
That's
creatures
why we have
have different, and different creatures have different responses to said things. Like, for example, if an ant were to lose its leg, we're not sure if it can actually interpret it as pain as how we feel, but it understands there's a disturbance and that it's probably not great. Or it reacts to the disturbance. It's basically just biological evolution to where we're like, oh, don't touch that so you don't die. It might kill you. Avoid that thing.
I mean, I feel like am I not explaining this right? The whole entire topic is God is not all good. And so God would need a justification, and the justification you have provided and is not, I just don't know how to explain further. He limited his power by giving us free will. Free will has nothing to do with leukemia.
Also, I don't think in the Abraham verse that we would have free will, because God is all-knowing and therefore knows the future, knows what's going to take place. So it's just an illusion of free will. That's what I would say. Please give an argument for why God cannot kill a child and then give him heaven and still be all good. Wait, what? Please give an argument for why God cannot kill a child and then give him heaven and still be all good. I think I'm just having like a little brain aneurysm right now. I don't know why I'm having a hard time understanding what you just asked. Please give an argument for why God cannot kill a child in heaven and still be all good.
I mean, you just have to provide a justification. Like this is the whole thing. I need a justification for the greater good. So this kid's suffering.
Good point, Fleek. Yeah, Coffee's the more knowledgeable person on this for sure.
If God isn't all good, then why am I alive?
We'll go to heaven.
Actually, this kind of proves my point.
Yeah.
If there is gratuitous suffering, it's kind of fucked up to be like, all right, yes, I let you exist, but guess what? You get to suffer to an extreme extent without knowing any justification, period.
Yeah, and then Tim is like, the kid will go to heaven. Well, then, yeah, abortion is all morally good. Like,
I don't get why you care. It's because people believe this God is all-knowing, all-powerful, all good, and they take this from the Bible. They take verses from the Bible to justify their moral code, like anti-LGBT. That is like one of the core things. Is the reason why I care is that their belief influences how they interact in society, and usually, well, I won't say usually, but there are people who use God to justify certain evils.
So, Tim, what I would say is that the moral relevance of murder is subjective. Like a God soldier could kill the parents of a child that does not follow the Christian God, and God could be like, "Oh, that was totally fine. That definitely wasn't unjust at all." But that child is definitely seeing that soldier of God as a horrible, monstrous murderer. So no, I don't think God. He just he thinks his murder is justified. That's all it is. And as a human, I don't care.
So if murder is forbidden in the Ten Commandments, why did God say to Samuel to slaughter a whole entire population in Samuel 15:3? Now go and strike Amalek and devote to destruction all that they have. Do not spare them, but kill both man, women, child and infant, ox and sheep, camel and donkey.
Damn
basically
donkeys.
Poor donkeys, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Basically the context is God commands King Saul to, is it Saul? It might be Saul instead of Samuel, or maybe I forget. To exterminate the Amalekites, not just the army, but every civilian, baby, and animal. Basically, this is a divine punishment for something their ancestors did centuries earlier. Collective punishment. Saul spares the king and some animals, so God punishes Saul for not killing enough people.
Let's see.
So basically, he's violating his own commandments. Do you think that God should be able to violate objective morality? Or is God, whatever God says is good? So I'm just trying to figure out whether or not he is all good, you know? Like, I just don't see it based on what I'm hearing in the Bible.
I'm not a Christian. And I get that, but Muslims still follow the Old Testament.
Yeah, I'm confused about that.
Yeah, and we're talking mostly probably about Old Testament stuff.
Yeah. 10 Commandments are in the Old Testament, and so is Samuel. You don't follow the Old Testament?
We do not follow the Old. That's just I know you're the Muslim here, but that does not seem true. Hold on.
So is the Quran itself the only thing you follow? Like I thought you guys Muslims like see Jesus as the prophet, as a prophet, but not the final prophet. And Jesus talks about the Old Testament. And so do you reject everything in the Old Testament?
Yeah, in the Quran, Jesus is a prophet.
Yeah,
right?
I know
Yeah, so
I'm trying to figure out where you draw the line at the start. Like, do you believe in Genesis, where God?
Like, I would just say if you believe in parts of the Old Testament, then you're just picking and choosing out of convenience.
Yeah.
There is a difference between murder and just killing. There's at least a legal difference. Murder, I think, is mostly strictly a legal term. But you can also define murder as an unjust killing, but what is considered unjust is going to be relative or subjective. So,
Old Testament is corrupted by the hands of Jewish rabbis. There might be truth left in it, but we do not care about what it says.
You kind of need it because it is still one of the foundations of the Quran. The Quran, I think, let's see, it acknowledges that revelations were indeed given to previous prophets, but they were already replaced with the final testament in the Quran. For Muslims, stick mainly with the Quran. Well, I mean, Christians mostly stick with the New Testament. It doesn't mean the Old Testament isn't foundational to their beliefs. Ultimately, like the Quran wouldn't have existed without the Old Testament. I'm assuming, right? I think Islam believes the Bible is the first revelation of God, and the Quran is the final, revealed through Muhammad.
Yeah, so no,
I know they do consider it the final revelation, or so I just
yeah,
read.
no, within Islamic theology, I just looked it up.
But I mean,
it's fully justified for Muslim to reject the Old Testament as an authoritative or reliable text. See, I don't know enough about the Quran to really debate on that. I will be more than happy to do a little bit more research. If you have anything that I can be like source to, if you have any sources, I would love to read it.
Yeah. So let's see.
But we can also talk about I just don't know enough about the Quran for me to debate it.
Yeah, I mean, we can obviously still debate on if God is infinite, because they all three still believe in the whole that God is all powerful, all knowing, and all good. I believe, but obviously there's also different sects and everything. There's different denominations within all three of the big three Abrahamic religions. So
I don't know. You still need to. I mean, this whole thing is God is evil, and I have talked about leukemia. I've talked about the I cannot for the life of say
genocide of the
onchocerciasis. Oh man, that was pretty close. And then ALS, it's a neurodegenerative condition. So basically, like they can't even have free will because of the fucking nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord. I don't know, dude. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Him being an all-loving God.
To make people happier. Here's a cat. Her name is Sasha.
I love cats. Hello, Sasha.
She's fat.
Fat motherfucker. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's. I mean, like, I don't know, dude. I'm like the whole entire topic is. I need a understanding of why God needs this suffering, and I know you guys have said like free will.
It's a test.
It's a test, everything test, like that, but there's still no you don't even know the justification. If God has higher reasoning, then you can't claim that God is all good.
Well, we're pretty sure Jesus didn't live a sinless life, right?
Well, I mean, they say he didn't live a sinless life, but honestly, like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
Unless someone followed him around for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Do you think he ever wore mixed cloth?
Oh, yeah. But that's the Old Testament, so.
Yeah. Why did God come down in the form of a man, live sinless life, suffer and die on a cross? Because God's an asshole and let his son suffer. Like, rise from the dead. We don't have actual evidence of that happening. We just have hearsay of a few people.
Again, like this, we're talking about gratuitous suffering. We're not talking about anything else. I need a justification from God to make this where it's like, oh, it's fine that leukemia happens because of this purpose. God is all-knowing, so there needs to be a trying to figure out, maybe that doesn't follow. But God knows that this baby is going to suffer. Jesus did live a sinless life. Jesus, both fully God and fully man. Then he will have to... Well, we don't believe that. And again, we're talking about gratuitous suffering. Like, Jesus is fine. Like, he seemed like a chill dude. But as I said, I'm like, I do not understand why Christians think Jesus can carry your sins away. Honestly, I agree with you on that one.
Jesus carry your sins away. Why can others carry their responsibility?
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird one.
I actually do like that, Tim. Thank you.
That one's a little bit better. But again, we are talking about gratuitous suffering. It just seems like you're trying to, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like you're addressing my claim.
Everyone carries their own sins. I do feel guilty about things I've done like 25 years ago.
Yeah, I probably was a piece of shit.
I wouldn't say I was a piece of shit. I was a good boy. But
I was a little good boy.
I was your good boy. But anyway, so yeah, obviously the Bible claims he lived a sinless life, but at that point you do have to have faith. It's, one of the big things that the Bible is true, and then you have to then ask, is like, well, do you think the Bible is all of it is literally true, or is it figuratively true?
Because Jesus didn't even write this. It's true. Other people writing about his life, and like I said,
it's argued that Paul. It's argued to this day that Paul might have never even knew Jesus. Didn't Paul's gospel come like 30 years afterwards, after Jesus' resurrection or something?
Yeah, dude, probably he did have like some naughty thoughts about Mary Magdalene. He's like, damn, that ass though. But I'm gonna refrain from it. I'm gonna be a good
Jesus
gentleman.
Christ. Jesus, stop looking.
But yeah, Jesus,
rude.
damn, you fucking rubbernecking over here, dude. I just don't know, like, the claim that he lives a sinless life, the way you would have to, the evidence you would need is to follow them 24/7 in order to make that claim. You can claim that he's God all you want,
but he's also the Son of God.
I don't know, dude. The Trinity doesn't make any sense for me, but I feel like we're getting way off topic, and I don't feel like anybody's addressing my claim. So, can we get back into the JP?
I mean, I'm gonna say, Tim, it is our stream.
I mean, dude, I really appreciate you guys engaging.
Yeah.
In this, but I feel like my claims aren't being addressed.
Mm. Oh, I mean, I think I'll just say 777. I feel like 777. He addressed them in the sense that it was like.
Oh yeah, he definitely addressed my stuff at first.
Yeah, but we're kind of.
But I gave pushback, and then it seemed to go in a different direction.
Oh, and Tim, let's see. Just address it again. Who are you to define? Shouldn't you be thankful for even existing? Why should I? Just because my heart beats, just because my lungs breathe, why should I be thankful for existence? I need a good reason. Obviously, that sounds really dark. I have things I'm thankful for, obviously. But, like, the reason I appreciate my parents is because they have, I mean, no parents are perfect, obviously, but, like, I get along with them. No, I don't particularly want to die. I mean, if it was like 100% guaranteed I would go into heaven, yeah, probably I would. But let's be honest here. No, like, I'm thankful to my parents, not for the physical act of giving me birth, but because they've supported me and stuff like that. So yeah, like I find it funny when people, when it goes into like the abortion debate, not that many people actually ask this, surprisingly enough, but it's like, oh, well, what would you think if you were aborted? I was like, I want to fucking know. Right? I don't care. You're guaranteed heaven if you have faith in the Lord Jesus. Well, unfortunately, yeah, and then there's also different requirements between different denominations. Some denominations say you don't even necessarily need to love Jesus. You just have to be a good, quote unquote, morally good person, at least within the confines of the religion. To answer, he keeps you alive. He did. I think my biological processes keep me alive. He did more for you than your parents. Not at fucking all. In fact, I would be as bold as to say I've done more with you than God ever has. Just having this exchange. Like, obviously, that's a bold claim, but it is an observable claim.
Well, I think Jesus, the 777 would probably disagree with that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was referring to Tim.
Okay. Never mind.
Yeah, he supports you more. Without his support, everything would stop existing. Every cell in your body would stop existing. I mean, whatever. Like,
I don't know, dude.
You have to presuppose God exists for any of this to make sense. And that's where faith, the word faith, one of its definitions being belief in something that has no good solid evidence for. There's other definitions of faith, obviously, but in this case, that's the one that seems the most applicable. It's like this stuff only works if you have that faith to begin with. And obviously it's not intuitive because there are cultures that have never been Abrahamic or don't follow the Abrahamic religion, or that existed before the Abrahamic religions and stuff like that. There are still tribes out there that don't know about it, I'm sure. Repent and put all his faith. Neither from Christians, so Hitler can believe in Jesus and then go to heaven. Just gotta believe. See, this is why if I was forced to pick one of the three, well, okay, ideally I would be Catholic because they look cool as fuck and they have a lot of cool pomp and circumstance. But the one I would probably believe the most would be maybe the Old Testament God, because it just seems more straightforward, a little less. I mean, still esoteric, obviously, but it's like, yeah, we can do bad things. They're not bad to us, but you know, we can commit violence. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, it makes more sense to me that God would be like that. Yes, you need to repent from sins and put your faith and trust in Jesus. We will always struggle with sins, but repentance is a change of heart and a want not to do sins. But I want to do sins. Beep. Beep. Beep, beep. But anyway, yeah, this did kind of go a little off topic. We're just making the claim that God is evil. And just because within that religion, which obviously most people do not follow, a lot of it's going to seem really bad.
All right. Can we get back to the Jordan Peterson thing? Yes. I feel like this has gone way off topic.
Yeah.
Like on topic and off topic.
Right.
I don't feel like my gratuitous suffering, why is gratuitous suffering necessary from an all-loving God, is being addressed, but...
Well, I think it's been addressed, but there hasn't been any strong argument.
Yeah, I've literally countered all of them, and I don't feel like those counters have been addressed.
Anyway, we'll get back
to... Or at least coherently, but...
We'll get back to Jordan Peterson.
Your notion of God is...
What typical Christians?
Yeah, typically when I talk to Christians...
Relevant to this claim.
You're basing a position of morality and purpose in some like notion of God that isn't the same type of notion of God that typical Christians would prescribe. Your notion of God is...
What typical Christians?
Yeah, typically when I talk to Christians, they say that they believe in an all-knowing...
How about Cardinal Newman, who defined God as conscience? He was a major influence on all of Catholic social theory. How about that Christian?
Sure. So do you believe in the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good notion of God?
What do you mean by believe?
Do you think it to be true?
That's the circular definition. What do you mean when you say you believe?
How is that circular?
Because you added no content to the answer by substituting the word true and believe.
I said you think it to be true.
All right. So if you believe something, you stake your life on it.
What do you mean by that?
What?
You live for it, and you die for it.
That's vague.
That's what I mean by that. It isn't something that you say It isn't something that's associated with logical consistency.
Oh my God.
It's not declarative, and you die for it. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I rewound it just a little bit.
It isn't something that you say. It isn't something that's associated with logical consistency. It's not declarative. It's not propositional. It's not a figment of your imagination.
No, I guess I needed to
It's the presupposition of your attention and your action. And you're either fragmented, in which case you worship multiple gods, or there's some unity at the bottom of it that makes you an unstoppable force.
An unstoppable force.
Okay, so you're saying that you...
I bet the Trinity is polytheism. No, they're all supposed to be God. The same God. But anyway.
Coherently, it feels like... Like, if you're actually, like, thinking about it, it does feel like polytheism, and they're just... Yeah, and then just rearranging it to make sense?
Well, I mean, it would be God the omni-everything, God the mortal, and God the spirit, the spiritual energy, I guess. I don't know what the... I mean, I know the Holy Spirit's, like, represented by a dove, so God the bird. But I imagine that's almost more like an essence. The Holy Spirit is like an energy or of some sort. The soul, maybe. I don't fucking know.
I also have some verses in the Quran that are very unsavory, but I don't know. Hold on. There's the verse about beating wives and the violence against unbelievers, and then eternal hellfire for non-belief. But I think the Muslim view on eternal hellfire is that beating wives is fairly unsavory to me. I don't know about you. But I think the eternal hellfire thing, and I could be wrong, is that if you haven't been given the word from the Quran, that you are kind of like exempt from it. I'm not sure. If your wife acts up, there are 3 stages: 1 warning, no sex, and 3 hitting her.
All right, does that go for the man of the household as well? If he acts up, can we give him a warning, no sex, and then beat the shit out of him?
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Violence is necessary.
All right, I give you a warning. You're not gonna bang me.
I'll give you a warning.
All right. Get fucked. I don't know, dude. I don't see how that justifies the violence against a significant other.
Embrace primalism. Aw, yeah. Have y'all seen Amon Hillman? I have not.
He is in charge for keeping the peace but uses violence?
Yeah,
I think that's a contradiction.
Yeah.
How does
I would imagine hitting her is not keeping the peace.
Do you think that the man can use his words instead of his hands? I feel like that's way more. All right, I would say maybe yes, but is the woman harming you? If it's the case that the woman is harming you, I think that could be a justification for retaliation, but that's self-defense.
So the words come first. A warning is not words. A warning is a warning. That is not a discussion.
Yeah, no, there's why couldn't they just talk it out? Why is it necessary?
He gets into the Greek. It may help contextualize all these ancient terms and references. I mean, like, I know the Greek translations might be a little different. I'm guessing. I don't really know. But yes, disclaimer to everyone that is watching or may watch this down the line, please do not commit violent acts without consent, because, you know.
All right, what if the hitting doesn't work?
If the man attacks her at any point, is the woman allowed to defend herself?
Yeah.
Do you think that she has she's justified in retaliating?
The right
if
of
she's getting hit?
self-preservation.
Oh my, okay. That's interesting.
Or if you can get a divorce.
I didn't know. Is divorce like okay in the in Islam? I didn't know that.
Well, okay, so
I mean,
if you just swing at someone, that's an attack. Like even if it's just a hit, that's an attack.
Yeah, I don't understand what the difference between hitting someone and it not being an attack. I don't get it. Last case scenario. Well, that's interesting. So do you need? Why couldn't you skip the step of hitting them and just go to divorce?
All the prototypes.
Why is violence necessary in that case if you can divorce?
Well, yeah, because obviously Greek has a lot of philosophy, math, etc. I mean, philosophy is the progenitor of science, more or less.
If anything, hurting somebody should be the last case scenario. If anything.
True. An attack would be like they keep going and try to harm you. A hit is harming someone. A slap is harming someone. Like how in America they give the belt to children. We do not support that. Most Americans do not actually support that. The ones who do should maybe have CPS looked into them. The slap can fix the marriage. It is better than a divorce.
Spousal violence can fix the marriage? It depends on what you mean
healthy. That's not healthy.
Yeah. I don't understand. I mean, you have to define fix first.
Yeah.
And by fixing, it sounds like it is only conducive to what the male thinks. I don't think it's a collective.
To the husband.
Like I'm sure the woman be like, yeah, I don't think this solves anything. I feel like it's making it worse.
Oh, what? Why is that? Oop, there we go. The difference is
yeah, it probably did get blocked.
Yeah. I just let it through. I want to kill the woman, but just gives a medium power slap.
Dude, I don't think I've ever heard medium power slap before.
I'll give you the most mid slap I can possibly give.
But does the Quran say that it stops at the medium power slap?
Just don't hit your spouse unless it's like in self-defense.
Literal phrasing exists. And traditional interpretations have literally enforced it literally.
An emotional woman, not a physical one. Jesus Christ, man. I mean, it's been shown over years of research that physical abuse is not conducive to a healthy relationship. Unless you're into that, but that's something else.
Yeah, well, that's consent.
Banish your spouse to the shadow realm. Pegasus, begone, thought!
Oh my god.
To the shadow realm.
Well, actually, it's the opposite. If she's not banging him.
Yeah, so there's you slap her, just don't like break her teeth and stuff. Just hit her like on the arm or so it hurts and she gets punished. I really hate how this is all worded.
Yeah. Also, does the Quran say that like you shouldn't be doing this stuff? Because like in the Old Testament, it specifically states that forget which part. It's like specifically states you can like beat your slave as long as they get up in a day or two. I just if there is more to the verse where it says, oh, you're not allowed to break their teeth and stuff.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Like that's kind of fucked. I mean, yeah. The thing is with the Islamic marriage, is that the woman is subservient to the husband, and I think that's immoral in and of itself. I think it is just pure. I think the whole situation is suffering. Now, obviously, I'm sure some of the marriages are totally fine. Like, I would hope so. I don't imagine every Islamic marriage is bad. But to have those stipulations is not so great.
Could have the Quran said exactly that. Like, hey, just lightly slap them or medium slap. Don't do anything more and just do it once. Why didn't the Quran say that? Because I feel like some people could. I don't know. I feel like if the Quran was more specific on that, it doesn't say beat.
I wonder what like different translations might say.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious. Maybe they're all.
I feel like people have translated differently. Like, oh, the Quran says slap. I interpret it as whatever I mean.
Of the Prophet. I mean, I feel like there might be.
Oh, it's further clarified in the sayings of the Prophet.
It is daraba. Daraba.
Daraba.
Which means slap or strike.
Oh, strike is a pretty potent word.
I don't remember what is L in Roman numerals again?
That's a good question.
I forgot.
X is like 10, right?
Not the Hebrew. Jesus was doing the mysteries with those 12 boys. Trust, bro, it's that wisdom of the serpent. I'm getting a little lost in what you're telling me. To be honest. There was another thing I was going to say to Tim, but I don't remember. Just, oh yeah, it was about the divorce rate. Maybe there's a divorce rate in the country where women are just allowed to divorce people when they're in an abusive relationship. Also, we don't... Americans still force marriage sometimes. So, yeah, more or less, America has largely moved past that, except in, in areas with a lot of, Christian nationalism and shit like that, where the abuse continues. But we have been weeding it out, and I think that, in general, has been better. Because, the way you describe it is, if every single person ever was happy about this authoritarian regime, then it would be a utopia. You say that about other shit, too. So, yeah, that's what yeah. It's this is fine in the context of only your religion. Outside of it, we're no, that's just abuse. That's bad. Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
Kind of fucked up. I don't even know if I want to continue justifying or listening to someone justify.
You don't want to send women to the shadow realm?
Yeah. I don't know.
Pegasus might have a field day. Fucking love Pegasus.
You don't believe something if you wouldn't die for it?
Not really, no.
Okay.
How would you define belief? Something you say?
Can I explain? I could believe it is the case that this pen exists, but if someone threatened my life, right, I would lie in order to be able to save my life, right? I think you would do that too. You wouldn't lie to save your life?
Don't be so sure.
You wouldn't lie to save your life?
How much do you know about me?
Deflection.
I didn't lie to save my career. I didn't lie to save my clinical practice.
Would you lie to save your children, your mom, your dad?
I don't think lying would save them.
No, can there ever be a circumstance logically that lying could save someone?
Yeah, and if you're steeped in sin, you're likely to live in circumstances like that.
I'll give you an example. If you're in Nazi Germany, and it is the case that there's Jewish people in your attic and you're trying to protect them, would you lie to the Nazis?
I would have done everything I bloody well could, so I wouldn't be in that situation to begin with. It's a hypothetical, and it's not answerable.
You can't answer hypotheticals?
No, I can't answer a hypothetical like that because it's far. Look, don't play games.
I'm not playing games. I'm just asking if you ate it.
If you present me with an...
He's not playing games. You're the one dancing around the question. Just answer the hypothetical. Lying can be morally good, morally justified. Easy answer.
Tractable moral choice that's stripped of context, and you back me into a corner. You're playing
you have all the context you fucking need, bro. What?
I just told you I would do everything that I could.
Oh, also Jordan Peterson likes to give out hypotheticals. So.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
To make sure that I'm never in that situation. By the time you've got there, you've made so many mistakes that there's nothing you can do that isn't
Chronic
a sin.
deflector.
Being born in Nazi Germany and trying to protect people that you care about, like there could be a Jewish friend that you have and you want to protect them.
I think you should
have
just
them in
give
your
up on
attic.
that line of questioning.
Give up on just like trying to clarify your position? Because you
I
don't
did
like, are you like
clarify.
uncomfortable with me asking this question? It's just a basic hypothetical. Like I could ask you.
It's just a basic
Yeah, yeah.
hypothetical
Like,
where
like
you
if
put Jews' lives at stake in Nazi Germany. That's just a basic hypothetical.
Obviously, you would lie in that scenario to save their life, but you're like not trying to answer this question for some reason.
I just told you why.
Are you anti-fascist? Like, so you're
Why
anti-fascist?
are you asking that?
I was just asking.
That's
just clarifying.
crazy.
But,
You
like,
could just say
again,
no.
you're not answering this hypothetical because you know it shows that you clearly would lie to save
I'm
someone's life.
answering it in
Obviously,
a
that's
manner
not
you
what truth
don't
is.
find acceptable.
Obviously, because I care about
you're-
truth.
I wouldn't be in that scenario.
Obviously, right? Logically, because that's
No.
already happened. Like that's in the past. You don't have a time travel device. We're bringing this logical hypothetical up to show you that in some circumstances that do happen within the real world, you would lie to save people's lives. So your definition of truth isn't actually how we're typically using it. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to muddy the waters when I ask you, like, do you believe this? Do you think this to be true? So you don't actually have to answer the questions. And plenty of Christians don't like that.
I like Parker's clarity on a lot of this shit. Like just talking to Jordan Peterson, it's like you're doing this, you're just avoiding. Oh, there's more conversation in the chat. The prophet
I'm not
said-
interested in
Yeah.
the unethical. Like it's just nonsense to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, don't beat the female slaves, but beating the male ones is fine.
Beating your spouse is fine.
Yeah. Embrace primalism. The Dr. Amon Hillman will contextualize this. This debate is not a matter of rhetoric, but rather a deep investigation into the source text. Everyone talks past each other these days because the ancient terms and references are all used without the context. I got a juicy white wabbit Neo. Juicy white wabbit Neo. Fucking the red and blue pill are just fruit gushers. I mean, like, I'd be interested in looking into it, but I mean, so I've stated this millions of times at this point. Jubilee's format, not great, but there's probably like 3 reasons I'm reacting to this. One, because one of our favorite streamers is debates against him, Ian. And let's see, 2, this is a very popular video at the moment, so yeah, it makes sense for us on a in like a practical sense to maybe get more viewership to watch this. And 3, I'm trying to remember the 3rd reason, just because we wanted to, and also our topic is God is evil at the moment. So that's more or less why. So maybe we can look into Amon Hillman, if I'm pronouncing that right. Is it Amon? Ammon? Either way.
Because they clearly see that you don't really like want to be associated with Christianity.
I can imagine that I was in a situation where the best I could do as a consequence of my previous mistakes was to tell the least amount of lie I could manage. But that would likely indicate that I had made all sorts of catastrophic errors on my way there.
So you would lie to save someone's life. So
actually, you know what? Maybe Jordan Peterson doesn't lie. He just avoids the truth at all fucking costs. That's what he does. He will not answer a question directly. He will dance around it for his own well-being, to preserve his ideas. We don't know what he believes. That's the problem.
Again, you do believe it to be true in that circumstance.
And like, honestly, it says Jordan Peterson versus 20 atheists, but Jordan Peterson just mostly keeps referencing other people's definitions, other people's beliefs. It's like, you're not debating. The atheists aren't trying to debate that. They're trying to debate you.
Even though you like lied in that scenario. So
not
clearly
without
that's not
the
what you see to be true.
context that I put it in.
You were not willing to die for it. You were not willing to let other people die for it. So that's not what you see to be true then, seemingly.
Seemingly.
You're doing exactly what I said you were doing at the beginning of the conversation. You're generating an impossible, restricted, hypothetical with...
It's a hypothetical. It's a hypothetical. Like,
no precursors to back me into a
How's
corner.
it possible? Is there something contradictory about it? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
It's clearly not impossible because it actually happened, for the record.
Great conversation.
Yeah.
Might be
My
unlikely
next
it happens
claim
again,
is
but not
that
impossible.
everybody worships something, including atheists, even though they might not know it.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into things I worship.
Hi.
Good work.
Thank you.
Hi there.
I'm Zena. So I want to start off with like defining terms.
Can I read the message and not make false assumptions? Oh, the other part. It's not about slaves. Slaves of Allah means like good religious people. The Prophet Muhammad was the slave and messenger of God. I mean, does God own the people? Because that's what is.
That could be an argument, low-key.
Yeah, like does God own the people? That would be.
He created them, so obviously.
Obviously. Yes, God owns all of us.
Yeah, I already knew that.
What's my price tag? Is what I'm curious.
$5.93.
So wait, do parents own their children?
I think that might be a category difference because God is above all else.
Sure,
And,
but I would like his answer to it. If
I think Loki, I think you'll probably have the same answer.
Same as you maybe, but I don't know, so I'm just curious. Are the creators owners, basically?
I mean, they might argue that down the line, God is the creator of all things.
The way the parents own the kid is different from how God owns you. I get that. But the parents have limited authority over the child, but God has all authority. So, yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be different. Do you think parents still own their kids, though, was basically the question.
I think they're trying to just draw a distinction.
Yeah.
Between the criteria, maybe, in which they own them.
Sure, but I don't think parents own their kids.
Maybe
regardless.
does God have the ability to like harm the child and the parents don't, or something like that?
Yeah. Like God can do whatever he wants to humanity, but obviously parents are limited in scope.
Keep on going. Keep on going.
Yep.
How do you define worship?
Prioritize.
Prioritize. So almost like having a preference over something rather than the other.
It's a hierarchy of preferences.
Yeah.
And you use it to direct your attention.
Right.
So whatever you're attending to, you're worshiping.
Right. So I've kind of become a little bit.
Sorry. Yeah, but the type of owning is different. You call this custody in America, I think. Is custody ownership? I mean, kind of, at least. It's not. It's not ownership of property.
Ownership with
it's guardianship.
Restraints.
I think it's like a guardianship, basically. Yeah.
Bit familiar with your idea of like this value-laden hierarchy, right? And you kind of posit that at the bottom of this hierarchy, or you call it top or bottom, I suppose. Right. At the bottom of this hierarchy, this foundational priority in your life is going to be considered God. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. I'm trying to imagine a situation in which could there be that someone has a priority at their foundation that is different from someone else's?
Oh, definitely.
Right. So we can have different conceptions of God.
That's why we fight.
Right. So essentially, there's not one God, but there are multiple gods, and these gods exist in some realm of truth. It's true that this person has one God and it exists.
Yeah, probably better to think about it as multiple values, but that there's a hierarchy of values with something at the bottom.
Right, but at the bottom is God. And
the way in which you own your kids is the same way as you own your wife. I really wish you didn't continue down this line. Anyway, embrace primalism. I dig it. This vid is cool. In the same way Mahdi has appeared or modern religion / cultism, Passion of the Christ, or Netflix Al-Masih, or Devil May Cry. I did watch Devil May Cry, it's fun. As in, it is an epic CIA psyop, LARP moment, fairy taleization, or misreading. However, when it comes to these misreadings of ancient texts and ideas leading to mass division and death, I opt for the historical context and the anthropological grounding, something only deep research into the texts can give. Yeah. So you're mostly referencing the historicity of the text, going further and further back to where it might actually make more sense of the time they were written in, so it might be more believable, I guess. But anyway.
That's a definition, yeah.
Yeah, so at the bottom is God, and there can be multiple people with different conceptions of God, and they're each valid in being called God. So there are multiple gods that exist.
It depends on what you mean by valid. So far, so good, but it depends on what you mean by valid, because I would say that some foundational conceptions don't play out when they're implemented. So if you put the wrong thing at the foundation, you end up in hell, for example. That's what happens in totalitarian states.
Okay.
Yeah?
So you're saying...
So they're not all equal. Like, all foundational principles are not equal, even though they might be equally foundational. Right?
So what makes one kind of foundational tenet like better than another one?
That's an excellent question. Iterability. Imagine that you play a game with someone and you're a kid, and it's fun. So then you play again and again and again.
So repetition.
It's playability across multiple iterations. So then you have a friend, and a friend is better than having a game, right? So that's one. Breadth of application is another. So if it's just for me now, it's not as good as something that would be benefit to both of us across time.
Right. So we're explaining like characteristics that can be applied to like these types of like foundational values. But why is it that this iterability makes it better, and what does better mean?
Well, one hallmark of better is likely to be selected voluntarily.
Right.
So it's invitational.
Another descriptive kind of quality. So we're talking about characteristics that in some type of system with a goal, an output being like, we could maybe say happiness, right? Or some type of
harmony.
Harmony, right?
Yeah, that's better. Not happiness precisely, because it's too short term.
Exactly. So as someone who is an atheist, right, I can explain that within a system, there are things that we can see as better or worse to meet this goal or meet this output. But what we're interested in, though, is what could make these things, regardless of any system, right?
Well, imagine that you set up a system and you implement it, and it produces the opposite results to which you intend. Oh yeah, that's not a good system.
Exactly.
Right, so the foundational principles are lacking, because when you implement them, the game degenerates instead of moving towards the aim.
Right, so we're talking about within a system. When we talk about something being moral, right, just absolutely moral, it means that without a system, right, this thing is simply moral with no reason. Like, stance independent, this thing is good. So I'm trying to figure out if such thing can exist. And if so, do you believe that these things are moral in of themselves, like self-evidently moral, or are they moral in accordance with the system?
I can't define them any more accurately than I already did, really.
Okay. In regards to morality, when we talk about the divine...
See, one reason I really like her is she can, like, follow him and still challenge him within his own bullshit, basically. She seems, like, super sharp.
We talk about God and religion. These moral tenets and religion, right, and God exists as good because it is God, right? So it's self-evident, right? Without any kind of goal or output, this thing is good. So I want to figure out how...
There's an element of that that's true. So, for example, in the story of Job, Job is unfairly tortured in consequence of a bet between God and Satan. And so Job is emblematic of someone who's being hurt for no apparent reason. Okay, so Job's response to that is that he refuses to lose faith in himself, and he refuses to lose faith in the ultimate goodness of being. Okay, and those are axiomatic decisions. They're not exactly evidence dependent because he is suffering. There's an arbitrariness in that that's reminiscent of what you claim.
So I'm essentially trying to figure out, do you believe that something can be good, like stance independently, something that can be good?
I don't know what you mean by stance independent.
Okay, so
you mean independent of people?
Independent of people. We can use that, or more so, I want to be more specific. Something that can be good, right, regardless of any end goal. It's just good.
No, I think good is tied up with goal.
Goal, okay. I completely agree. So in a sense, this is why...
That's why the religious goal in Christianity is the establishment of the kingdom of heaven on earth. It's goal dependent.
Okay, right.
So it's in reference to a goal.
So,
or the goal would be the imitation of Christ.
Someone's goal, right, can be something that doesn't encompass being in congruence with God or being with God.
No, the thing that they want to be in congruence.
Oh, right, okay. It is God.
That's right. That's right. That's good. That's great. The thing they want to be in congruence with is fundamentally equivalent to their God.
So what makes someone a Christian and what makes someone not a Christian? What makes like that's what I'm trying to figure out because
that's a good question.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, probably the deepest answer to that is willingness to shoulder your cross voluntarily and trudge uphill regardless of circumstances.
Okay. So someone can believe in someone can have a God because in your definition,
what that translates to.
First preference, that is God, right? So someone can believe in God, right, and not be a Christian, right?
Yeah, well, there's a statement that Christ makes in the Gospels. He says, not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven.
So not that they're even saying that they believe in God, but they just...
No, but that's why I'm saying this to you, is that Christ himself points out that there's a difference between people who say they believe and people who act it out. And the fundamental issue is the action rather than the stated belief.
But he also says that, you know, to be saved, right, you must believe God has died for your sins or that God has resurrected in some way. So it's like, I don't necessarily think that we can take from the Bible and say that like acting in accordance with God necessarily means, or acting in accordance with, you know, the principles of God, like for example, sacrifice, like you talk about, means that you are Christian. I don't see how you can get that from that interpretation and then, you know, kind of justify it as the true.
I don't think that the fact that you sacrifice is sufficient to make you Christian.
So can we repeat once again what you believe makes someone Christian?
There's many things, but one of the most fundamental is that you believe that the cosmos itself is founded on the principle of voluntary self-sacrifice. Best founded. Let me offer you a contrary example. So I could assume that power rules. And so that my assumption would be, if I can make you do it, I win. Right, and I can found a whole society on that, and that happens a lot, by the way. And that's also how societies tend to degenerate. And so that would be a society that was founded on the principle that you get to sacrifice and I don't have to. Right, now the contrary to that would be something like you give up voluntarily and with courage all the things you need to situate yourself properly in relationship to the future and other people. Right. So then there's a harmony. That's why I talked about harmony earlier.
So you navigate your life, right, in accordance kind of to this principle of self-sacrifice. Can I say it in that way?
Yes, you can definitely say it that way. That's exactly
I feel like I
right.
can't say
And navigate is the right term.
Someone does not have to have any awareness of Christ, of the story of Jesus, and but let's say 60% of their actions, right, or more, whatever kind of metric you want to use, are in line with this self-sacrificial.
So the Christian thinkers of the Middle Ages dealt exactly with that problem when they were talking about the pre-Christian philosophers, for example. And they noted the similarity, let's say, between pre-Christian Greek thought and later Christian thought, and presumed that there were moral actors outside the Christian domain.
Right. So is that person Christian, though? Is that person Christian?
Well, to some degree, again, that's a matter of definition, because they wouldn't be proclaiming Christian propositions, but they're acting out the pattern. Right. So so imagine that full Christianity would involve a dozen things. And you can imagine someone who knows nothing of Christianity, say, acting out 8 of them.
Right.
So then they'd be 8/12 Christian or something like that.
Christian.
Well,
but to be like a full Christian, how can someone say I am Christian? Like I am Christian, not 8/12, but Christian.
Well, I hesitate to do that personally because I think it's the kind of goal that you be very careful about proclaiming. The technical.
But belief is not necessarily, to be mostly Christian, belief is not necessary. 8/12s or, you know, right?
Well, it depends on what you mean by belief. See, because I would say that acting out the pattern is the deepest form of belief. Now, you could add to that what you say. So, you know, maybe in the optimal situation, how you act and what you imagine and what you say, they're the same, right? But you can imagine a hypocrite who says all sorts of wonderful things and does nothing, and you could imagine another person who acts in a very positive manner but proclaims nothing.
So what I'm kind of seeing is like a descriptive, a really comprehensive but descriptive analysis of human action, human thought, and by which we can characterize people and put people in boxes, but I don't see.
Why in boxes?
Like, when I say in boxes, I mean like I can categorize you based on your actions, not based on necessarily what you say, but based on your actions that you are more so or less so Christian, right? Things like that, right? So we can categorize people as Christian.
Well, I would say more or less voluntarily self-sacrificing.
But that's also what we came to, though, is that someone can be like 60% or 70% Christian based on simply just acting in that way.
Yeah, Richard Dawkins is like that.
I watched that.
Let's pause there. You've been voted out by the majority.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Really, very thoughtful.
That was a good one.
Yeah, she's really good. Let's see. It has been over 2 hours. I can maybe keep going, but I was more or less planning on about 2 hours for this stream.
Whatever you want, dude. I'm always game.
Just chilling.
Whatever you want.
Oh.
I don't know if you're burnt out or anything.
I'm a little fried, I guess.
All right, then, yeah, we can end it here.
The words baptism, gospel, mystery, Christ, Savior, and more, and all pharmacological terms. The word medicine comes from the name Medea, ancient pharmacist, yes. Whore of Babylon in the Bible. She had a cup, and Jesus had a cup. I'll say that for now. The term Antichrist is basically, wait for it, antidote. I'm telling ya, there's a whole strange context that has been completely hijacked into a fairy tale. Yeah, no, I like how they tried to ban censored whore. That's so silly. But anyway, yeah, no, I mean, that just goes into etymology. And yeah, I know a lot of Abrahamic belief systems are based on previous systems. Like I was talking with Coffee and Squid yesterday that the god Yahweh was based, the original Abrahamic god Yahweh was actually based off of like two Canaanite gods. And I guess it might have just kind of evolved from there. I'm not sure. But like other belief systems, even pre-Abrahamic, also had like great floods and other things that are very similar.
Gilgamesh.
The tale of Gilgamesh. But anyway, yeah. It's a lot of Abrahamic belief is based off of other things, just like most religions. They're typically based off other concepts that other religions have had. So
shit, like Buddhism and Hinduism came quite before Christianity and even Judaism. Considered like the first major religion.
When did Buddhism come about? When did Buddhism start? 5th century BCE. So I think, well, that would mean Buddhism came after Judaism. Because how old is Judaism? 6,000 years old or so?
Well, they claim it is.
Sure, yeah. 3,500 years old.
Yeah.
And then
they say that the world started around then.
Yeah, young Earth creationists. Well, they also say what, like 6,000?
I don't know, dude. They're weird.
However, scholars suggest that Judaism, as we know it, emerged more recently, around 3,000 years ago. Yeah. Well, anyway. Any-hoozle. When did Hinduism start? Which I'm sure it's like evolved, but Hinduism actually still younger than Judaism, but obviously still old. I mean, if we really want to go into other religions that are still somewhat practiced today, you know, we could go into Hellenism, we can go into the Egyptian gods.
Dude, B would go crazy.
True. You'll come to see that.
They also say hey.
Oh, hey, Safi.
They're at work, so they can't join.
Fair enough, yeah. You can see that the first references to Judaism comes from the 3rd century invention called Septuagint. Septuagint.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
that's breaking my brain right now.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna maybe have to look up Dr. Aman Hillman. I will actually pull him up, and then I will pull up the wiki, and I will put that in the bookmarks. Ooh, there we go. For later. An American classicist, known for his reinterpretation of Christianity. Okay. Could be neat. Basically, the Greek Old Testament, they say Hebrew came first, but it's a lie. I mean, yeah, Greece is older than the Judaic religion for sure. Oh, wait. The civilization of ancient Greece is thought to have begun around 800 BCE, but there were the Minoans, the Mycenaeans, Cycladic civilization. Oh. Greek language has its roots that go back at least 3,500 years. Which would count? Basically... Yeah, I don't know. The Hebrew language has a history spanning approximately 3,000 years. So yeah, so Greek, or at least early renditions of Greek, could have existed before Hebrew. But I don't know. We are not 100% sure. Anyway, I'm going to be ending the stream now. So thank you guys for stopping by. Please like, follow, subscribe, whatever you want to do if you want to keep up with us. Go ahead and join our Discord so you know when the lives come up as well. And check out the Aurora Debates Discord server. They're allowing me to promote it on their server, so I should promote them in return.
Wow, dude. Reciprocity? That's fucking crazy, dude.
All right, so you all have a nice day, and we'll see you next time.